Check it out.
Hello?
Hey, Bree, how you doing?
Hey, good and pretty good. How are you, Mario?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Hey, I was psyched to see you and Cameron climbing last week. How did your session go?
It was pretty good. Haven't been on ropes in a while. I feel like I just need to start training a little bit more again. What was that hangboard you mentioned to us?
It was the flashboard. And I think it's the best one because you can use it indoors, you can use it outdoors. It doesn't really matter where you use it. You can hang it on stuff. You don't have to mount it to your wall, so it's pretty dope.
Oh, that's great because I feel like I can't put holes anywhere in my house. But
yeah,
that's awesome. Where can I get it?
You can go to Tension's website, and then whenever you do, just drop in the promo code Tension SAS20. You'll get 20% off. You'll support the podcast, and yeah, but then they'll get it to you on the quickness.
Oh, sick. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Are you guys climbing again this weekend?
Yeah, I think we'll hit up maybe the new rope gym down in the design district.
Oh, the new movement is finally open. Nice.
Finally, after our long wait.
I know. That's a long wait, but I'm excited. Well, I'm looking forward to climbing with both of you guys, and I'll see you guys this weekend.
Yeah, I'll catch you later. Bye.
Friends and enemies, lovers and haters, welcome to Sends and Suffers podcast. I am your host, Mario Stanley. So today is the continuation of my conversation with Craig, which has been pretty awesome to go back and listen to this. Some episodes give me goosebumps, some give me giggles. This one, I don't know. I don't know if solidarity is the right word, but I feel very kindred. And Craig is an awesome dude. And if you guys haven't had a chance to look him up, please look him up on social media. All his information is in the show notes. Everything you need to find him. Support what he's doing because he's an amazing individual. And as always, support this podcast. If you don't already follow, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. If you love it, if you hate it. That's why I asked for the haters to be here and the lovers. I want to hear from you all. But that's enough about me. Let's get into this episode with Craig talking about his life in Puerto Rico, helping people, coaching people, and just being an all-around badass. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Check it out.
But one of the things the first topic I want to address is do children have PTSD from being locked out? Because I know 4 of my kids, they're not the same.
Hell yes.
They're sweet, they're loving, they're just as funny as they are, but like this level of I can't put my thumb on it. It's like they used to try with ferocity, with just being ferocious. Now they try with anger. Like when they really want to try with a route, like when they're really trying to do a mode, they would just be ferocious. And now I feel like it's not ferocious, it's anger. And I that's a really poor example, but it's this hairline difference. And as a coach, and I've been coaching some of these kids since they were 6 years old and they're 17 now, and so known them for more than half their lives. And
so the isolation maybe makes them angry.
I don't know. But I don't want to use the word anger. I don't know what else to say because
right.
It's not quite like what it was, but it can't be what it was, but it's not quite like the sport is the same. But the way they approach it is just a hair different. And I can see when they just things don't go their way, they rage. I can see their relationship to the sport. It's just changed. And so it's just hearing you say this, it's to me, it sounds like, a better way to describe this is it is just a massive amount of water behind a dam.
Right.
But you can't just turn on the faucet.
Mm-mm.
The floodgates open, and then it is a slow process to see that they'll close. The gates will close. It's going to happen.
Absolutely.
But it's the wind. Imagine just a comical thing in your head of a movie where the gates is going in, the valley's getting flooded and the gates closing and it's happening and the valley's flooding. And then eventually the gate closes and
the valley was flooded and then the aftermath, but then everybody will eventually pick up all the pieces. But that's their reality on a regular.
Right.
And like, that's how, like, looking at some of my kids, watching like how they respond to like another kid or a situation that they deem unfair, or like, you know, as coaches, like I make rock climbs that they're not going to finish. Like I make them hard enough where they're not going to.
That's the object, right?
Yeah. And then they just like, I've had kids just lose it after a couple days. And I'm just like, you know, this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
And it's just been this process. And I'm curious if it's kind of the same way.
It is, because the veterans won't maybe be, you know, that individual was angry, but it wasn't at a climbing specific thing. That was a life thing. But like even yesterday, we had a new veteran who is a visually impaired veteran, and they put him on a route. The first route he did was probably like 5'8", 5'9", and he just hiked up it, right? Just no problems. And so then the VA therapist said to me, what's harder for him? And I'm like, well, let's just find a harder route. And so I went over to him and I said, hey, man, I have your next route when you're ready. And he was like, the way you said that, he's like, I feel like I should be scared. And I'm like, don't be scared, man. We go over and I'm showing him this route. And I said, here's the thing. I said, so like, just because a route is steep doesn't mean it's hard. It just means it's steep. And I said, just because a route got big holds doesn't mean it's easy. Right? It's just like, that shit doesn't mean that. Like that I'm going to put you on this thing that's going to be harder. And he was like, well, but it's not as steep. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, but those holds are big. I'm like, yep, sure. I'm like, let's get you up there and see what you think. And so literally, dude, he went 10 feet and he just got served. And I said, do you see the difference now? And he was like, now I do. And I said, here's the beautiful thing about climbing. When you hike up that first route, there's always one harder. I said, no matter where you go, you can always find a new challenge to this. And I said, and that's the beauty. I said, you don't want to get up everything all the time. That'd be boring as shit, right? You want to learn things. And I said, I was trying to teach him. I was like, here's what a mantle is. Here's how you heel hook. Here's ways to move efficiently over these different kinds of terrain that will get you to the top eventually. But like, it's not going to be today. Might not be tomorrow. Might not be next month. That's just not how this game works. And so to watch them hear that and learn that and go and appreciate it, right? Like I think sometimes kids maybe don't have that wealth of knowledge to pull from.
No, they don't have that life.
They don't have the life experience. Exactly. So this guy, he's been, you know, I mean, he's mid-30s or whatever. He's got a lot more to pull from, right? And so he's like, oh yeah. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, I kind of dig this whole thing, you know. And like I said, he went first route, boom, no problem. He went whatever, how tall the walls are here.
30, 45, 30 to 55.
Okay. So he was like left of the lead wall.
Oh, you guys are on the yellow route.
He got on that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As soon as you said mantle, I was like, it has to be this one.
It was. And dude, it was awesome watching. I was like, he's trying to do it. And I was like, hey, turn your hand and do this. And he did it and it worked. He was like, holy shit. And I'm like, yeah, mechanics, right? Like body mechanics are rad. And he's like, I'm like, you know, when all that time in physics, like you didn't, like I never took physics in high school or anything, but I was like, you know, we laughed, like now comes in handy.
Math, that science and rock climbing go hand in hand.
It's pretty amazing. And to watch him go, oh, this is cool. Like, okay. Like he understands, like, we're not going to get up to that pipe every time. It's just not going to happen. We don't all clip the chains every day. It's just,
I mean, that's such his life.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think you hit the nail on the head with me and the kids. It's like, they just don't have enough life experience to know that like, sometimes you just have to embrace the suck, and the suck might last a few days, but it always ends.
Yep.
It always comes to an end, and you just kind of have to manage through that.
And even telling, like, I'll work with young climbers now and, you know, they'll say like, how long have you worked on a route? And I was like, dude, I've worked on routes for years.
Still working on some of them.
And they're just like, years? I'm like, yeah, man. Like, it doesn't always like just fall into place. It's like, you've just jack it up, you know. I've thought I was going to clip the chains and then didn't clip it for 2 years. It's like, you know, all that shit. It's just weird.
I think what people don't realize is for the most part, rock climbing is constant. You are not.
Correct.
And I think that's like the big misconception. It's like
Correct.
People, like I've been working on routes for a long time, and people are like, you should have just gotten this route done. And I'm like, well, I mean, my life wasn't the same. You know, moved, ended up getting a new place, COVID. I mean, like the list goes on. And to a certain extent, are some of them excuses? Yes. And then to a certain extent, some of them are just like
it's reality.
It's the reality of living a real life. Like, once you leave the nest, being on your own is on your own.
It's a fluid state.
Yeah. And even married, doesn't matter. Like, it's just, you're not the same person at Purchase. And I think kids have a hard time wrapping their brain around that. And even new climbers in the beginning, it's just like, it doesn't matter what's going on. It's just like, you are not the same person every day.
And they're like, I was improving all the time. And then now I'm not. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's life. Like, you should get used to that because you're going to be sad. It's like, it's whatever. It's funny.
So what is this program that you guys are, is the program that you guys are trying to do with the VA here in Dallas? Is that unique to this VA here in DFW?
So it's unique to them. Yeah. So they'll be doing a biking program here and they'll do a climbing program here. She's been doing a climbing program at Summit, but what she has done, they've been very easy entry point people. So it's like, basically they're just climbing as a regular individual, no special need, like no adaptation really needed.
Mm-hmm.
They're just working with PTSD, and that way, when they walk into the gym, it's pretty much like flip in, climb. Yeah, exactly. So now the therapist, would like to expand that to like more physical disabilities, which is why I came in to help them.
That makes sense.
So it's like, she just wants to make it more inclusive to her population. So they must have like some different needs now, because it's all cyclical. The people they're in the VA for a certain amount of time, then they kick out and they're on their own. So her new crop of individuals must have more needs than she had previously.
So wait a minute, what do you mean? Like they go through a group of people and they don't stay in? Like
they have inpatient and outpatient. So she is an inpatient therapist, and then she works with outpatients as well. So what happened by that, I mean, when they go in as an inpatient, it's a 6-week program usually. So they do 6 weeks of intense therapy with them. And then that is supposed to give them enough tools to then be outpatient, where they can still come do the programs, but then they're not having to like go to the VA every day, kind of a thing.
This is a much more complex question, but I don't know. It's the word I hate in the world. The word I hate the most in the world is supposed. Like that, or like that. Those two things.
You're healed now.
It's like, you're supposed to have this stuff. And it's just kind of like, everyone is so different. It's like, I was arguing with someone before. They're like, I don't understand why everybody just can't come out of the ghetto or the hood and just like, there's basketball players, this and that. And I'm like, that's not a thing. Like,
not even close.
It's not a thing. And it's like, and it doesn't matter whether you're black and poor, white and poor, Mexican and poor, whoever you are. Like, poverty is a very complex, emotional, physical, psychological disease.
Right.
And it cripples you for generations because you don't have the ability. You've never been taught to critically think about how to escape it. You're taught.
Right.
I mean, you're basically taught how to cook without you're basically taught in your whole life, how do I cook without a stove?
Right.
Instead of like, let me get a job and buy a new stove.
Right.
Okay. Well, what skills do I need to get in order to get a job? Okay. Well, what all this critical process? You're like, nah, I ain't got no stove. I'm just gonna cook anyway, And
that's you're right. Like, that is such a big like discrepancy. That's a shitty word for it, but
that's a good way to put it.
And it's the same. The healthcare system is exact same thing. They don't give the tool to solve the problem. They basically just like perpetuate the problem. So not on purpose either. It's like we're trying to do the best we can, but we can't give everyone the right tool because everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
So like you and I are different. Every person in the healthcare system is different. So same with everyone on the socioeconomic scale, it's different. You can't just say like that person, well, pro basketball players did it. Well, shit, dude, that's not.
Yeah. I mean, I get, there's a certain, I mean, like there's a lot of people in the world who like catch up, but not everybody does. Like there will be a thing that like services a lot. And I understand, like, both my parents are veterans. So like, I've heard stories about like navigating the VA. It's a monster.
It's a
and it's
job.
been mismanaged for decades.
Absolutely.
Like I don't care who you are, what you vote for. Every administration, for at least from my understanding, for the last decade and a half, maybe 2 decades, probably let's just say 2 decades.
Yeah.
The VA has been mismanaged. And it's a whole nother thing that infuriates me because like
it's a bureaucracy, which is sad.
But it's the one thing that should not be a bureaucracy.
I agree.
Like you can,
Totally
you
agree.
can bureaucracy anything else you want, but like nature and people, don't do that. Like
And
nature and people.
And we are fortunate to work, we don't have to work within the bureaucracy. We are able to just work with them one-on-one. So like I get to work with the veteran. Yeah, exactly. So I don't have to I feel really bad for the therapists because they're the ones who have to work with that bureaucracy every day. And it's like, holy shit. Like all we're trying to do is help some people have a better quality of life. Like, why the fuck would you fight this? And yet they fight it. Like they're so dumb. It's just like, these programs don't cost a lot of money. You can have us come and do these programs for, climbers. I do everything on the cheap, right? So I've been a dirtbag my whole life. So it's like, I just translate that into my work experiences, right? So why would you fight that, right? Like, dude, just let us run. Like, let it happen.
I mean, yeah, I get checks and balances
Absolutely,
need to happen.
totally.
But like you can get 3 people out there just to stand and watch and give you the thumbs up and move on. And, if 3 or more disagree, then there's a bigger problem. But, yeah, that's like, that's interesting. I'm psyched to know that you're doing that. And then, how can people help you, support you, get it moving in other states?
Oh, yeah.
And then, do you have like a call to action for people who are, I hate the word disabled. I just hate it, but I think I always want to say
I don't
different.
mind it. I don't mind it.
All right, fair enough.
It's funny. Like I was talking with a friend of ours and they were like, they're like, if I say disabled to you, is that offensive? And she is a black woman. And I said, is it bad if I say black woman? And she was like, no, why? And I'm like, I don't think disabled is bad either. They're like, what? Just say it. Just be, just be honest or not honest. Just be yourself. Yeah. And then people pick up on that and they're like, yeah, cool. Okay. We're just going to go down the path. And if they say something that offends me, I'll say, oh, don't say it that way. Like this is an easier way to say that. But for me, it's like disability, disabled. There's all this people first language that you're supposed to use, but I've always stumbled all over it. And
yeah, no, I mean, it's complicated.
It's super complicated.
I honestly believe it's all going to kind of mellow down within the next 10 years because
I hope so.
Well, I think it's just, honestly, it's like, I was talking to a few people about it and it's like, they're like pronouns and this and that. And that. And I was like, I think the thing about it is it's like, I'm going to do a big stretch here, a big stretch, but I think I'll hook it back around here. But it's like, I was talking to people. It's like, it is like when Farrakhan I think it's when Farrakhan talked about like with talking to white people about like using the N-word or black culture or this or that. And people were so unarmed, like afraid. They're like, well, the fear of this.
Oh yeah.
And the thing about it is that I want to talk about it. Like, so it was him. And then you have all these other people throughout history talking about like race and this. And then now we're at a point where, I'm all for it, but like you have black people finally talking about like, not just reformations, but you talk about like very openly about like, how all these things connect and how all these things are a problem. And then now you're seeing LGBTQ pop up and you're starting to see these people talk about these things. And the point what I'm trying to bring up is they are talking about them when they should have been things that have been behind closed doors, not posted on social media, not public conversations, not conversations like, oh, my child does not need to hear you two have this conversation.
Right.
Or I don't want to be surrounded by this conversation. And the reality is you kind of had to obey that for the fear of violence being put on you.
Right.
And it's like, I say this, it's like the group in power, it's predominantly been white, but the group in power has a history of violence towards the other.
Yeah.
The other does not have a history of violence towards the group in power.
No,
that's not a thing.
Exactly.
And so I think that what people don't understand is for Black, LGBTQ, people who do not identify, anyone who is just considered the other, disabled, like at the end of the day, even though quote unquote, those days are maybe gone in certain urban metropolises, but they're not because majority of America is still rural.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that rural people are that way, but it's just like when no one's around, shit can go down.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that people don't understand is like, look at this from a generational standpoint. there's always been that grandmother or grandpa or someone is like, hey, you better mind your P's and Q's because someone will knock you out for that. And you're like, nah, it's not that way anymore. But that notion is still back in your mind.
Yeah.
Because the people in power have a history of perpetuating violence towards anyone that is, it disrupts their power or is not, that is other, period. And I think that's like what people don't understand. And I think now what we're doing is we're finally having conversations that are a little bit more open. Granted, it's behind a screen and social media. And I really wish, I mean, you know, like the stupid movie, The Purge, where they kill anybody who they want for 24 hours. I just wish that it was like, it was The Purge in reverse. And for 24 hours a day, once a year, we were all required to talk to people who we do not agree with.
Right.
And just like, you're required to like, you're not required to reach a resolution, but you are required to have a conversation with them. And just like, be immersed in their world and understand. And I think if we did it all over food, ethnic food, I think the conversations would go really well.
It's like what we were talking about when we first started. It was like the best thing that has ever happened to me and my wife was moving to a place where we were not the majority. We were the minority. In Puerto Rico, we are the white one-legged climber guy. But it's like, you realize, holy shit, like people should know that, like, because when you're the white male it's always been easy for, you don't, somebody can say it to you and you're like, I kind of understand what you're saying, but you're like, you definitely don't. And so then when you're in it, you go, oh, I still don't know what that's about, or, you know, for how that is for you. But it's like, it gives you a window of like,
but you have a perspective now.
Exactly.
So do you think it's interesting? So, and I've said this before to people, visiting a country is not the same as moving there.
Oh my God. It's night and day.
I think you have a very good perspective of that. Like, you know, people were like, well, I'll just visit another country. I'm like, it's not the same. Like, you know, you're leaving, but like, you guys live there. And I think that was probably, I guess, was it just immediately like once you moved there, you moved in, you're like, wow, this is like, culturally, everything is very different.
Yeah. And it was like, once you're there for more than like 2 weeks, you go, oh shit. Okay. So culturally, this is different. Everything about this is different. The language barrier, everything. And so, cause I speak Spanish. It's like not very good. I can understand it, but like not Puerto Ricans speak really fast, like Mach 10, right? So I always have to tell our friends, like, please slow down. Like, if you want me to understand, please just help me. But like you realize, okay, like everything is different. Everything from going to the grocery store to ordering food to pumping gas. Like you have to now fit into this other thing. And we did it because we like that. Like we wanted to something different. And we had the ability to continue working and interact with this whole group that we had worked with, but not, like now we get to work with all the time, which we love. And so, but even before we did it, we talked to our friends who are, you know, just like multi-generational Puerto Ricans. They were like, if you do move, like we want you to move, but like, just know it ain't the US. And you can hear that and go, yeah, what is still the US? And then you get there and you're like, it's not the US. It's definitely not the US. And so we just like, for us, I love it. I love the cultural differences. I love the community. I love the people. The climbing community there is incredible. And just like it makes you realize like Spanish culture is very family based and very relational. We don't do that as much here in the States. You know, it's like, it's different, right? It's just different. And when you're there, you go, oh, that's totally different. And I wonder if it's going to stay like that when we live here. And the beautiful thing is it actually is better because now they're like, oh my God, yeah, you live here. Like, let us help you do this. And it's just nice. It's a very nice feeling.
You know, I have a question I want to ask you. I'm saying that so I remember the question, but I cannot remember what book or article or something I read, but I want to say, I'll find this later on and put it in the show notes, but someone talked about like the death of the family unit is having kids having their own rooms. Because in every other culture in the world, like everybody sleeps in their own room, sleeps together and is always in these rooms together. But then people have called them savages or primitive or anything like that. But it's like, it's just very different. Like I remember going to Jamaica, visiting my family there, and me, my little brothers, my mom and my dad, we all slept in the same room all the time.
Totally.
And it was always a very different experience. My mom would be like, every time we come back for like a month, all of you guys would sleep in me and your dad's room. Like you guys would just refuse to sleep in your own rooms.
Right.
And I think that's like something, and I'm not saying like that's the way it is over there, but I think when you have cultures that have just like, they encourage like, oh yeah, stay in here, encouraging this. And it's like, and here it's like, you're in trouble, go to your room. Here it's like, go, you can just go to a place to be alone. And then, but I had that privilege when I was a kid, but I always chose to be around my family, even if I was in trouble. I mean, I could still be in trouble. I just wasn't allowed to do very much.
Right. And it's multi-generational too, which I love is like, you have people who live with their parents, but it's not like because they couldn't move out.
No,
they just live with the house is, that's just what you do. Right. Yeah, my neighbor, we live in a really fun, like really cool community of like there are no, I don't like to say expats because it's not an expat thing. It's like, it's still it's a territory. So, but everyone around us is Puerto Rican. And so it's like many of my neighbors have multi-generations living in the family, married, other kids. It's like, that's amazing. Like when you see that, you're like, holy shit. Like
the house feels different.
It feels completely different. And not only like they were funny when we moved, one of our friends was like, he's like, we actually make fun of people sometimes because he's like, they'll come here and they're like, we want to live here too. And they're like, no, you don't. You want a vacation here. Very different. And when you live there, you like, they're, like I said, they're very relational. They're very chatty and fun. And like when my neighbor, like you can't like say, hey, and just keep walking because you're a dick, right? Like you need to stop. And they're just like, dude, just slow it down. And when we first moved, this will encapsulate my Puerto Rico experience. Cindy hadn't gotten there yet. And I took some veterans climbing. This is last year. And there's like 6 of them. And we're walking to the cliff. And this one gal, her name's Rebecca. She's awesome. And she goes, all right, dude, now that you live here, a local, we got to get some shit out of the way. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Here we go. And she's just like, these 10 a.m. starts, like, no, this is too early in the morning. And I'm like, 10 a.m. is too early. She's like, 11 o'clock. She's like, Puerto Ricans don't like to get up early. And I'm like, okay, no, that's cool. And she goes, second of all, if you say 11 o'clock, that's a soft 11. That's like 11:15, 11:20. We're still on time. She's like, don't like look at she's like, you get there at like 10:30 when we're going to start at 11. I'm like, well, I got to get my shit out. And she's like, no, you don't. Like, get there at 11. We'll get your shit out. It'll be fine. And we've totally adopted it now. Like if I say 11, I roll up at 11, 11:05, get the stuff out there. They'll roll in and we all kind of get their kit for them. But it's like, I told Cindy that. She was like, oh my God, they think we're super uptight. And I'm like, and Coloradans are not uptight. Like when we went there, I thought we were pretty laid back. And then you get there and you're like, we weren't that laid back. Like, holy crap. They give like, they're professional laid back. It's pretty fun. So
that's interesting. Cause my next question was going to be like, what was your sombering moment of like growth or like something that you realized that you learned? And so, yeah,
that was it, dude. It was like, wow, I thought I was pretty mellow. And I was like, I'm just not that mellow.
Dude, island time is different.
It's a real thing.
Island time. There's such a thing as island time.
And it infuriates. Like we watch people come visit us and they're just like, yeah, we waited forever to get our check. And I'm like, yeah, where were you going? Like, just
drink.
Hang out, man.
Yeah, just drink.
It's fine. Like, they'll get it to you.
Yeah, no, I've definitely been guilty of that visiting. And then, but once you kind of get settled into it, it's kind of like,
when you come back, you really, like when I landed.
Oh, I imagine it was culture shock.
Dude, it's fucked up. Like when you land in Puerto Rico, like this is like easy thing for people to grasp. You land on the island and when they bring the jet bridge out in Puerto Rico, like you don't stand up when the jet docks, right? Like you wait because sometimes it'll come out in 5 minutes and sometimes it'll come out in 15. It's just like whatever is happening in the airport at that point. When I landed in Dallas and in Dulles before that, I was like, dude, the jet stopped and the jet bridge was there. I was like, oh shit, that's right. They do stuff. They are on it. Like,
oh yeah,
get off the plane. Like,
yeah, no, we got to.
Nobody's talking. Like, let's go. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. Yeah, life is different, man.
It is, man. It's good.
Dude. Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Dude, my pleasure.
And
I appreciate
next
you.
time you're in Dallas, please hit me up. And if there's anything I can do for you guys here, I mean, like I said, I work with a couple different people here.
Great.
Yeah, if there's anything I can do, let me know. And then I guess if you want to, this is your opportunity. If you want to say hi to anybody, call to action, or where can people find you? How can they support you?
So the best thing to the nonprofit is called Adaptive Adventures. And so it's just www.adaptiveadventures.org. They can find information about the programs they do. They can find out where they are on the events page, where they're working. And then if they want to find me, they can find me on Instagram at Craig Dem, CraigDem. And my website is craigdemartino.com. And that kind of will give them some backstory too, if they want to see, my disability journey, that kind of stuff, things that I'm working on. And that has film links, and they can get as much information as they want. So that's Adaptive Adventures is a great way for them to plug in if they wish to, wherever they are. So if they're here in Dallas, the VA will be working here on a monthly basis now, probably once or twice a month. So
Perfect.
if they want to volunteer with them, that would be awesome. We can put them in contact with those people. Again, through the website, they can just get my email, and we can connect them if they wish. So that would be rad.
Yeah. Actually, one more little random thing that just popped in my head. The question's still formulating, but like, as I guess, what is the best way that a person can support someone who's disabled who wants to get into an athletic sport? Is it just simply just inviting them in the invitation to say, hey, come along? Or is there something else that, cause I think a lot of people, it's like being white, going to your first black wedding. What if I don't want to eat?
That was awesome.
It's like, you like, if you grab the spoon and you scoop it up, you put it on your plate. You're like, well, what if I don't want to eat it? Just don't let nobody know.
That's right.
Just don't let nobody know. I mean,
that was the best analogy I've ever heard.
It's like what are the rules of engagement?
Awesome.
Like, do I navigate this? Do I hug? Do we shake? How does it fist bumps?
Is it? Yeah. They can. So I think, and myself included, when you get disabled, number one, you're scared, right? You're nervous about everything. You're afraid you're going to get hurt again. So I think disabilities have a certain amount of fear that is attached to them by that individual, real or imagined. So I think that if they know someone who is disabled and they think, this would be a good thing for them to do, just make the offer. Like, hey, let's just get you there and see what you think. Because if they're working with like an organization like I work with, they're going to then, as soon as they get there, they're going to have professional people there who can bring that person in and get them excited and safely enjoy whatever that sport is. So whether it's paddleboarding, kayaking, climbing, you just want to get that in. It's almost like once the invitation is there, they just kind of little positive reinforcement to get that person to feel comfortable to go do it. Because I feel like people with disability are like, oh shit, it's not for me. It's not like, it's like you just said, like, well, if I go to the black wedding, like, what do I do? It's like, it's fine. Just like, let's go and just check it out and just see how it rolls. And like, if this isn't your sport, cool. There's other sports to do. You can try this. You can, if it's not your thing, okay. But like, let's not just go back and sit on the couch again. Like, let's keep moving. Let's get out, do something. Cause like I said, like some of our veterans, they come to climbing programs technically, but they don't climb. They're just hanging out, right? Some of them I actually teach the belay sometimes. I'm like, if you don't want to climb, that's cool. But like, do you want to be a part of it? Because there's more to this than just climbing, right? Like,
that makes sense. That makes sense. And then what if there is no like trained professionals, trained help, but like, someone at a job and they're like, they just, they want to invite someone, but like, I mean, I definitely can understand someone's hesitation and fear, because I think more people, and I say this all the time, it's like, if you, especially with George Floyd and all this other stuff, I'm like, I'm not telling you I'm going to answer the question for you, but I might provide the resources for you to go find the answer. But so many people are afraid just to ask the question because they think the question itself is offensive. And in my mind, I look at it like white kids listening to rap. I'm happy. I mean, at the end of the day, you're involved in the process. And like, you care about it. Obviously, you're thinking about this. You're walking around wearing Wu-Tang shirts. Makes me feel safe. But like on that same premise, it's like, I guess like it's still the same rule. I'm assuming same rules of engagement apply. Just
It is.
understand that like you are their person now.
Yeah, right. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. It's like, if you're making the effort, that person is going to respond positively. They're not going to be like, you're an asshole. It's like, if you're making an effort and you're being honest and transparent and like, hey, what do you think about doing this? That person with that disability is going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, let's go ahead. You don't have to have that professional staff person like, okay, now here's how we're going to do this. Like if you have a person like and I can only speak from a climber because that's my world. If I'm a climber, I know how to climb. And if you have a disability, you know, you're the expert on your disability.
So you can work together and work
exactly,
around it.
Exactly. So as long you have all the pieces, you just have to put them together, and it's a learning process for everyone anyway. Because when someone comes to a program, I have to learn like what's going on. It's like you said, like everyone's different. So when they walk through the door, I can look at them. The worst thing I can do is assume, oh, this person is this. Well, shit, I'm going to be wrong probably 90% of the time. So I let them educate me. And that's everything. That's like that. That crosses all the borders, right? So it's like, they're going to educate me about their disability, their background, what they're expecting, like what is success for them. And then I can apply the climbing filter.
Huh, that's actually pretty powerful. Like, what is success for them?
Yes.
So like, do you find that everyone who attends your events, success is different for them? And do you ever, because I know for me, it's interesting you say that, because in practice, I never say what is successful for the kids. Cause I ask them a very simple question. I'm like, we're trying to send them out, or are we trying to learn the move? And the kids are like, we're trying to learn the move.
Right.
And I always say, I'm like, cause why do we learn the moves? I'm like, cause eventually you'll just get to the top.
They will link together.
Yeah. You'll be there before you know it. And I think that like, that's interesting. And I guess, is that a point of practice? Like, do not define success in the beginning, because my fear is, the reason why I would never say it is, if I define success in the beginning and someone decides that they can't do that, they've immediately decided that they can't do it. And
100%.
then I don't want to be responsible for that.
100%. It's if I give them what the recognized success is, like you go to the top and clip the chain, then I've just negated anything they do below that. So if they only climb 5 feet and fall and can't go any further, then they feel like a failure, because I just preloaded that expectation. Whereas if I say, what do you feel like is going to be a success for you today? And they say, well, like, oh my God, perfect example. That guy yesterday in the easy seat.
Oh yeah.
He said, I want to climb up to the big blue hold. And because I said, what would you like to do? Like, what do you feel like is going to be a good success for you? And he's like, I'd like to climb to that big blue hold. And I was like, dude, right on, let's do this. He climbed up to the blue hold and then kept going. And so when he came down, I said, his name was Cal. I said, Cal, why did you keep going? Because you said you're going to the blue hold. And he goes, because it was so much fun. And I'm like, oh yes, dude, that's what I'm talking about. And he goes, I just never thought it would feel like that. And I'm like, I know, right? I was like, it's so cool. I said, your expectation was here, but you blew it up to here. So that means next time, no, like, okay, I can aim here, but I can probably go here. And then that bar just keeps pushing up. And so if they are establishing what that success is, then you are just the mechanism. Exactly. Yeah. You're just facilitating and executing for them, with them.
That's like the most joyous experience too.
Oh, it's awesome.
I always jokingly say this in the beginning when I first started climbing, I made a lot of my white friends so uncomfortable. I was like, this is the only time. I was like, listen, this is the only time a black man has so much joy on the other end of a rope. Supporting you and belaying you.
I love...
all my friends would be like, it disturbs me that you say that. I'm like, I'm not going to stop saying it until you said. And then they try hard.
They're like, I just don't want to hear that anymore. But I think humor, I love humor in all situations. I just think it's so good. Because it's a great equalizer. It's a great equalizer. And I think it's wonderful.
I don't think rock climbing would actually exist, because I can't tell you how many, like my buddy Will Brock and I, we were trying to do this route called the Velvet Tongue. And he goes up for the pitch. And we're trying to do this 12D trad pitch. He falls, crashes into me. I go up, I fall, I crash into him. That process repeats like 4 times. We're like mangled, bleeding, like sitting there. And then he like lights a cigarette. And we're both smoking like these rollies at the crack at the top of this anchor that's too small for both of us. And we're just like hysterically start busting out laughing.
Yeah.
And we're just like laughing so much to the point where like I pee on myself a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people who look at us and like we tell the story and we just can't stop laughing. They're like, "Are you guys insane?" I'm like, "There's just nothing else you can do." Like,
Right.
Like when you know you can't win. Well, it's I don't want to say you can't win. When you know like the odds are just stacked against you, the only thing that is left is joy. Because joy is always there, no matter where it is, no matter how dark and gloomy. And I know there's some real dark shit going on in the world. So I want to be very clear. But even then, in the darkest times, like, and I would say this is true for most of the veterans I know, like they chuckle and laugh about some dark shit. But it's like, it's the only way, because I think laughter produces a certain hormone in your body. And I think that hormone is the only thing you can do to regulate yourself when you are just like, when you're just at your wit's end. Like I can't imagine anything else. You can think about anything you want, but until you're like hysterically laughing, like you can't regulate your feelings or you can't regulate yourself.
And it's at some point, the absurdity of it all, just, you know what I mean? Like you just go, fuck it. Like it just is, this is comical as fuck. Like I just like that. Like that's, I've done the same thing where you're smashing into each other. You're like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. And it's like, oh my God, like oh my God, on Zodiac at the second to last pitch, my friend's we flew the portal edge and he didn't put a swivel on it. So it just like wrapped up. Right. So we end up, it was so bound up. We had to cut his portal edge apart, like with a knife. And about halfway through cutting it, at first he was like, I can't believe fucking A, this was so expensive. And about halfway through it, we just started laughing. And same thing, I think I peed myself because I was like, this is fucking absurd. Like, why did this even happen? Like, what the fuck? So yeah, you gotta, shit's funny. Like just
deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cause I think the more you try to take it seriously also too, like you create problems that you don't want. I get the biggest kick out of when I watch climbers whip off something and throw a wobbler and just like start kicking shit and screaming and fuck this. And I'm just like, fucking light. Jeez, dude. Oh, I'm guilty of it. I've had moments like that and I come down.
We all have.
And I come down and my friend I'll never forget it. My friend Cameron, like I had a temper tantrum at Last Chance and I came down and I walked by him and he was like, "Be all right there, Junior," and smacks me in my ass.
That is like wonderful.
I wanted to punch him in the face so bad. I could not stop laughing about it.
Hayden Kennedy. Did you ever meet Hayden?
Oh no, but I know a lot of people know. God rest his soul.
Hayden was a gem. And one of the first times I ever climbed with him, we were climbing at a Horseshoe Canyon Ranch and we're sitting there and this dude, we were doing 24 hours of Horseshoe Hell. This dude whips off this climb. He's a pro climber. I won't say his name. And he throws a big, gigantic wobbler. And Hayden's watching him. And the dude lowers down, gets to the ground, kicks the wall. And Hayden goes, "Yo." And the guy turns around. He goes, "Hey, lighten up, Alice." And I was like, oh, fuck. And the dude just looked at him.
This. I think they talked about this.
He just laughed and walked away. And I was like, how did you know that would go that way? And Hayden's like, I don't. But he's like, dude, it's a rock climb. Like, get over it. You're fine. It's fine. Like, just move on. And I was like, all right, I like that. I like that, Hayden could climb like a mother and like a dude was a good climber, but he also was like, we should be having fun. Like, this is supposed to be fun, right? At the end of the day. So
I'm thinking, do you know Kathy Carlo?
I don't think I do.
She runs a really successful podcast. I think she's doing a big thing on Hayden.
Hayden he was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. And the last time I spent with him right before he died, about a month before, in Squamish, and he had his wing, he tore his rotator cuff. And so he had just had surgery. So his wing was all like wrapped up and shit. And we're driving up the highway to go to this Arcturx event. And we were just talking about like life. And, it was like, he's like, "What do you think about being a pro climber?" I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, "It's weird." And I was like, "What do you think?" And he goes, "You want to know what I really think?" And I'm like, "Tell me." And he's like, "Fuck those motherfuckers." And it's like one of my favorite quotes. I say it all the time now. And not that he was mad. He just was like, the expectation is yeah, he's like, dude, I don't go to the cliff every day, like raging. He's like, oh my God, it's
but
just
people think about it's like, well, it's because especially in America, we have this imperialism mindset. Like
Mhm.
we've got to conquer and
totally.
do that. And I forget what video, but this French guy was like, no, like here at Font, like we just like we climb at the rock and we figure out the best path that it lets us travel through. And I'm like, yeah, you guys might think this French dude is just stoned out of his mind and being real, like, futuristic and, existential, but he's right.
He's 100% right.
He's like 100% right, because I have been on plenty of routes in my life where I'm like, I'm going to make that. Like some routes you can climb into submission. I've done it. Like I've just brute forced
They
it.
are few and far between.
But a majority of them, you just have to get broken. Like you just have to get broken. And I think people just have this misconception that like pro climbers, whether you are working and even in a climbing gym, like people don't realize, like when they walk in, I tell the staff all the time, I'm like, you realize every person who walks in and gets a pair of rental shoes thinks you climb V10 and 514.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're just like, no way. And I'm like, can you tell me the difference between 512 and 514?
Right.
And they're like, well, yeah, one's hard. And I'm like, no, tell me the difference of it.
Right.
And they're like, I'm like, do you think they know the difference between 5.4, like V0 and V4? And they just, the light clicks on and you realize, like, as it is, like it's technically all, it's really pretty stupid.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all really dumb.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think that's beautiful. It's like, it's not supposed to be that way. You don't go to the crag that way.
No. And I think that the faster you realize, like, okay, we all have good days, we all have bad days. And like, there are some climbers who, climb really well inside, but really bad outside, and vice versa. And once I just was talking to this girl last night. I was climbing and then she was trying this route and we just started chatting, and she asked me about climbing outside. And I said, yeah, I think that's what I prefer to do. And she's like, it just seems so hard and scary. And I was like, have you ever done it? And she was like, no, I don't want to. And I was like, but that's silly. Like, you should try that. So I was like, you just want to be a gym climber? And she's like, yeah. I was like, that's fine. Like, that's great. Like, I think that's wonderful. But I said, just so you know, like the outdoor world is like, it's pretty amazing.
It's phenomenal.
But she lived in Manhattan. She's just, I know, like, so gunks is probably the closest thing, but I totally sprayed her down with the gunks. I was like, if you get it, like, just go check it out. Like, you might love it. You never know. Like, but I think that people do have this misconception of like what a good climber is. It's like,
does that boggle your mind that like over the last 15 years, I have met hundreds of people who are like, have been vehement, like, no, I never want to climb outside. No desire. I just want to climb in the gym. And I think this is where the gym industry has thrived, because this is where Bloomberg magazine, I want to say in like 2012, I think this is when this came out, 2012 too. Climbing Business Journal did an article on it, but they talked about how climbing was becoming one of the next big 500 Fortune, big companies.
They print money.
Yeah. But like, that's it. That's why, because people, it's like, it's not CrossFit. It's not cycle.
Right.
It's not this, but it's different. It's different every day. And you have this subgroup of, people who and it is what it is, but it blows my mind that like no desire to go out. And like one person I knew, like, it made sense. This guy was a orthopedic surgeon, and another guy was like another kind of a surgeon. He was like, he's like, I'll rock climb indoors and I'll warm up and I'll take my kids, but I don't want to climb outside, potentially damage my hands.
Totally.
I totally get it. But like, it's still, to me, to this day, it's just a little bewildering to hear.
It's a little weird. I've had like multiple conversations with younger people and older people. And like, I had this one guy, it was hysterical because he said, came up to me at a gym in Colorado and he was like, what's your project here in the gym? And I was like, I don't have a project in the gym really. And he was like, like, what do you do? And I'm like, I just come in and climb routes. I mean, I just climb a bunch of routes. And he's like, you don't project in the gym? And I'm like, I really don't. I was like, I know that sounds dumb, but I was like, I just don't do that really. I said, I'll try a route a bunch, but I don't think of it as like a project of mine.
Like, this is
I'm going to do the yellow route. And he was completely baffled. And he's like, so when you outside, do you do that? And I'm like, outside I do. I have red point stuff outside for sure.
Yeah.
And I said, but I don't translate that into the gym really. I just don't. That's just me. I was like, I think that's great when people do. And my wife is great. She can climb as well outside as she does inside. And I'm just like, I just don't do that as much. I seem to climb worse in a gym for whatever reason. And she doesn't. And this guy was like, I could watch the wheels turning where he was just like, what the hell? He's like, he couldn't get his head around it. And I just think that crop of people, that is their outdoor experience, even though it's indoor. And I think it's great. I don't understand it myself, but like, I think it's great that they've at least found climbing in that realm. And that's a good thing, right? Like it's still exposing them to climbing. And especially now with the Olympics and all this weirdness with that. It's just like craziness.
The world is changing. Rock climbing is, I mean, this would probably be another conversation I'd like to have with you on another day, but like I've been working on this series idea called Good Old Days and the Good Old Boys.
Oh.
And the birth of the Woody. And it's just like, it's not the same. Like the climbing gym that I started in was a glorified Woody.
Oh, totally. Same.
And it's
gluing holds on buildings and shit, right? Like, remember that? Like,
there's a place, Matilda Bridge. We can go do that.
Oh,
there's a crack.
It's
5'9". It goes at like 5'9" and you can hand jam it. And there are chips on the outside, and then if you get it, then you sling the guardrail at the top for the anchor.
Sweet, yes, that was my early climbing experience, man. I swear to God, like you tell people that they're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
Oh, but in DFW, I've been working on this little series that I've been trying to put together, and it's like the best building in DFW. And one of my friends was like, ethically, I don't think you should put this video out because people are going to go do these things.
Yeah,
and I was like, ethically, no, but I'm also going to strongly encourage people. I'm going to tell them, like, if you get caught, you will be arrested.
Oh, yeah.
And
they frown on that.
Yeah.
They frown on that shit.
Yeah, cuffs suck. So.
It does. But even the, like, it's like, I love climbing history. Like I'm kind of not fascinated by it, but I find it interesting.
No, it's wildly interesting when you get into the
characters.
Weeds of it.
Yeah, the characters who were like early climbing. It's like, but now like you start. I just had this conversation last night with the nonprofit. They got an autographed picture from Jeff Lowe, and they were going to have it in this fundraiser. And she said, "Do you think that's a good thing to put in a fundraiser?" And I said, "Yes,
I would buy it."
Right, because you know who Jeff Lowe is. But I wonder if I walked into Summit and even your staff, right? If I asked your staff, they'd be like, who the fuck's Jeff Lowe?
Like
and
maybe two people.
Dude, that's sad, right? Like, that's so sad.
I mean, is it though? Like, I mean, I've always had this strong belief, like there's enough success to go around for everyone in the world. And I'm not saying Jeff Lowe Jeff Lowe does not need to go in any way, shape, or form. But it's like, I think it's like, the way I look at it is, it's like there should be new people coming in, and then they want to look at that person and then realize, oh, holy shit, your inspiration is Jeff Lowe, and I worship the ground you walk on. And I think if we look at it this way, like generationally, like you should dig deep. It's like people ask me, like, who was your favorite climbing star? Is it, Kai Leitner? I'm like, Kai was in diapers when I was climbing, and
seriously,
and they're like, who is it? I'm like, Tony Lamanici. And they're like, who?
Yeah,
I'm like,
who
Leo
is
Holding.
that?
And Leo Holding and Tony Lamanici are people that I just like, I was just fanboying over because Tony is a monster. Tony, like,
so is Leo.
Yeah, Leo. So Leo's a monster in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
Tony's like world-class sport climber. Established some amazingly hard routes, trad climber, bouldering,
really good boulder.
And then now he works as this Swiss Alps like search and ski rescue.
Yeah,
and as a family man.
He's an athlete.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Just an athlete.
And then Leo just doesn't stop. Like
no.
he
because how old is he now?
Leo's goddamn like in his like
40s.
Late
right?
40s,
late
early
40s.
maybe
Okay.
even late 40s. Like, have you ever watched what is it? Oh, I was literally just watching this video a few days ago. It's the old, not Return to Sender. That's Sketchy Andy and someone else. That is, it will pop to me.
It's a Sender film though?
No. It's this old British film where they talk about I have it here actually, but they talk about like yo-yoing. They start breaking down what's the red point, what's this, what's that. It will come to me in a minute, but Leo's in there. And Leo has this heartfelt moment where he talks about like saving a project and like, yeah, I really want to get the on-site. And then he's like, and you waste he talks about like, I've waited years to do these routes. And I just like, and then I never got on them because I didn't want to blow the on-site. On-site. That's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
On-site. And,
dude, that's an old film.
I know, it's my favorite. Have you seen it?
I've seen parts of it. That's an old film.
Oh, dude,
he's like
I have
12 in that thing. God damn, dude. He's like a, yes.
Yeah, dude. Though they show him and like he's in his early 20s when they're filming him.
Okay.
But they show him when he was 12 and doing all that other stuff.
Ridiculous.
But like Leo's an explorer. That's the thing I like about him.
Yeah.
Like the man is like, he's not just a climber. He's a legitimate like expeditionist. He's
and the new stuff he did, like even with the kite, like in Antarctica, like that's badass. Like you look at that and you're like, God, that dude isn't just, like you said, he's not just a climber. He's like, he's all about that. He's like another age.
Like if we were like, I'm a Star Trek huge nerd, but if we lived in the time of Star Trek, Leo would be like a captain exploring the universe and just he's Captain Pike or Captain Kirk. He's out there.
And I guess that that's actually super helpful to hear you say that way. You just said that, like about if you like this person, then that they're going to then find that person through you. I've never thought of it that way. And that's a really cool perspective. Because I always go, oh man, how do they not know who like Mug Stump is or how Charlie Fowler or all, these people who were like icons when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But like they don't like they don't, it's okay. It's like, God, that's a bummer. But like, they can find out.
They can find out. I think it's also our job to talk about them. Cause like I tell the kids a lot, like they're like, who's your favorite climber? Is it Chris Sharma? Is it this? And I'm like, I tell them, I'm like Leo Holding, Tony Lamanici. And they're like, well, who else than that? I'm like, well, I'd probably have to say Steph Davis. I'd probably have to say, then we go into Sharma. And then, and they're like, who do you think is the greatest rock climber in all the world? I'm like, Danny Andrade.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like,
dude's badass.
He's not the greatest rock climber. I'm like,
fuck, he is.
The man has put more bolts in the world. Like, I think he's bolted more routes on the planet than any one human being. Like, he's a monster. He's just a machine. And
watching him, we were in Spain climbing and I watched him climb and he was projecting this thing in a cave. And he went walking by with a ladder. And I was like, who the fuck's that guy? Why does that guy have a ladder? And then he like turned and I'm like, holy shit, that's him. And so I'm like, let's go see what Danny's doing. And we roll over and a buddy of his knew us. And so he was like, hey, what's going on, Craig? And Danny was up on the ladder at that point and he just like waves. And he was projecting from the ladder so he could like feel the holds. And like he was trying to sort out like just micro beta. And then watching him pull on, I was like, fuck, oh my God, the dude is a genius.
I've watched him rock climb once in real life. And
it's amazing.
And it was the end of a route. And I'm just like watching him move. And I'm just like, it's second nature.
It is.
The only way I know how to describe it, it's like watching water pour over a rock.
Yeah.
Like it's just
and so we were in Rodiar and that's like his home stomping ground, I guess.
Been there yet.
Oh my God, dude. It's incredible. It's gorgeous. It's teeny tiny Spanish town in the mountains at the end of a road and this gorgeous, oh my, it's beautiful. Go. And so there's a river and we were on the one side and there's on the one side, the roots are tall and the other side is these caves that the river's just kind of carved out over the eons.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny was working this thing in the cave and they would use the ladder to get up to where the fault started basically and suss out the beta then. And just watching him, number one, I'd never thought to take a ladder to the crag. Number two, watching him like just do the micro beta, I was like, holy shit. Like he's up there like just like lifting a finger to like, and you're like, holy shit. And then you see him like start to link stuff and he was nowhere close to getting out of the cave, but like watching him link like little things, I was like, holy shit, man, it's like, insane.
Like Danny would never do it because he doesn't like people that much, I don't think. But if the man ever did like a master class, like I would want to take it just to understand like what is your thought process and your like just like what is your analytical thought process to approaching a route, like when you're gonna like break it down and like like taking a ladder makes sense to me for bolting purposes because like I don't want to climb the route all the time.
Right,
I just want
right.
to like walk up
But
there.
to work on it, like,
I
right?
never would have thought of that. Never
Same.
would have thought of that.
Same.
No.
And even watching Euros warm up, like where my mentality of warming up is like, okay, I'm going to do a couple burns on something easy. Then I'm going to get on something hard. Like watching those guys, they just get onto the project and just go bolt, stop, bolt, stop, bolt, stop.
I learned that a lot. I learned that from a friend of mine who moved here to the States. And
That's genius.
He taught me that. He was like, yeah, man, just get up there. And he was like, the moment you feel like you have to go, just let go.
Right.
And I was like, well,
it's so counterintuitive, right?
Yeah,
to the US. It's like,
and he was like, dude, just like carry a stick clip on your harness. And he's like, just clip it and then go up, then grab the draw clip and then lower down. And I was like, this is effing ingenious.
It's so counter the US mentality.
No, because like it's not original.
Yeah,
it's
you're not fucking, you're just like you're not crushing. You're just like, what is that? Like,
yeah. But hence why these guys and girls are just murdering routes.
Dude, I'm not kidding. The first time I climbed in Italy, I watched a Nona smoke a cigarette and climb 12A while she was talking to her son. I'm just like, Jesus, what the fuck? And I was like, I can't.
No,
She just murdered her. And I'm like, and they had a picnic. I'm like, we were fucking climbing wrong. Like, Nona has shit figured out. Like, the whole family. I was like, dude, we're doing this wrong.
Yeah. No, take notes. Take
notes.
Fucking notes. All right. I'm gonna cut this off because I know you got to be somewhere soon.
Thank you, brother.
But dude, thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'd love to come down to Puerto Rico and climb with you guys sometime.
Yeah.
I got family in Puerto Rico. I think it's on what side of the island are you guys
We're on the north side. We're near Dorado.
Okay, no, they're on the other side.
Ponce side. Yeah.
Yeah, that like their family's been there for generations.
And that's like we go over there. It's like 2 hours. We go over and climb in like an Aguadilla and those areas. And there's actually a lot of bolting to do over there too. But we've been focused on where we live. So
fair enough. Well, I will say this: it's like Chris Hampton, big mentor of mine.
Love that guy.
But he was suggesting that I need to just like step out and do and other things. And I've told you, I'm bolting here in Texas, bolting a few other places. And then I've been contacting that. But like, that's one of the things I want to start doing is just like volunteering my time and helping out. And
oh my God.
And so like, I genuinely will tell people like, I'll bring bolts and I'll leave them. But all I want to do is just like learn and do that. And
you don't even have to bring them, dude. We'll give them to you. I'll drop a drill in your hand and
yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. And then I'm trying to, and then I was talking to Tony Siriana too. And so I'm trying to have an opportunity to go with him, but that man is insane. So, no, it's a Tony. No, I said his name wrong. Who bolted all of Siriana? Is it Tony? Oh my God. I have the book. Hold on.
No,
I literally have the book. Now
it's not Tony. Oh my God. That's terrible, right? Like, should know these things. Who is it? It's,
what I like about this next moment is, hold on. Oh my God. Headphones. What I like about this moment is I'm literally just going to, oh yeah. Tony.
He wrote the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony, the man has bolted more routes there. Like you literally like 15 to 1600 of the routes are all his. And the whole area's got like what, 4,000 routes and like or more or less. Have you been there yet? Oh dude, Siriana is
I know.
beautiful.
It's just, my wife went here. Our daughter lived in France for a while. And so my wife, we were in Greece climbing and then she took her to where she was living and they went to Spain first. And Cindy was like, oh my God, we need to go back to Siriana. She's like, it's insane.
Dude, it's so clutch. It's like right there. Like you literally, the cabins, everything else in there. I will say this. If you do go, don't stay in the old wooden cabins. Do the ones that are trailers.
Okay.
That's the beta. Because the old ones are creaky, rickety, and they don't hold heat or they don't hold in anything at all. Love you, Tony, but that game needs to step up.
And you just made a word up, creakity.
Creakity.
A good word. I'm going to use that word.
Yeah.
Okay. So camper, whatever.
Yeah. They're up on the hill. Number 9, I think is the one you want.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your time.
Dude, thank you so much. My pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, love it or hate it, this dude is awesome. And I'm super excited I got to share this episode with everyone out there in internet land, audio land, wherever you guys are from. Hopefully you're from all over the world listening to this thing. And if you're from my neighborhood here in Big DF Dub, what's up? Thank you so much for listening to Sends and Suffers podcast. I appreciate every listener. I appreciate everyone. And if you enjoy this a lot, please check us out on our Patreon. You can join as little for $5 a month. We try to post monthly. And then as far as episodes, we're trying to post 3 episodes a month. It's been a little rocky, I know, sometimes, but we're here for it, and we're making sure we're bringing it to you. Like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, check all the boxes, leave all the comments, say whether you love it or hate it. As I said in the beginning, I need to hear from my haters too. They help sharpen me, and my lovers, I'm here for you too. But what I do want to know is, are you suffering? Because that will tell you whether you're sending at all. Try something a little different. Let me know how it felt.
Drug Tone Audio.